I will say right off the bat that I'm not a big fan of killer animal movies. I think because I don't like that they lack I guess, the fantastical nature of some horror. But then
Sure.
I like grounded in reality horror movies, so I'm not quite sure. I don't know. I think killer animals. The way I look at it is, if you're gonna go with an animal, then go big. And I guess because there's so many bad ones, but my introduction to them are actually two really good ones.
Okay.
Well, okay, one maybe not so good, but um, my introduction would be, I think, Jaws 3, the 3D one,
The one,
and that the 3D one.
yeah, breaks through the restaurant. I remember vividly.
Yes, and that one scared the crap out of me, because I'm pretty sure it's the third one, because in the beginning they're at a like a SeaWorld type thing,
Uh,
and they're looking at all the fish in the high aquarium things, and then a body floats by, and
yes,
and that freaked me out as a kid. Like, and
it's a
that's
good
very
dead body, dude. It's a good like dead
it's
rotted
a very good
underwater.
one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's yeah, you don't see you don't see the ones that good. Like, it's in this kind of movie. Like, I mean, it's the third part, so you think it's not gonna be so. Even as a kid, like, it's kind of like 3D. This is gonna be really cool. Like, but you kind of know it's not better than the original.
Yeah,
But that body, it freaked, and I think that's within like the first 5 minutes or something.
it's early.
So I, for the longest time, I couldn't get past that part. Like, it totally freaked me out. Um, Eventually I saw all of that one. I was like, yeah, okay. But then I saw, like you mentioned, and I'm sure it's a lot of people's first, saw Jaws, loved it. Like, really cool. Made me just like people were scared. It'll make you scared to go in the water and all that stuff. So that one freaked me out. And then Cujo was the other one,
Cujo.
and I vividly remember the him sticking his nose in the hole,
Yep.
and then the bat biting him, and that
Oh,
just like that totally freaked me out. And I think what I didn't like about them, and it's kind of stuck with me, is that they're too real.
oh yeah, no, totally. Cujo in particular. Man, I saw all this stuff real young, but just a glimpse into my life. My dad's a veterinarian, so like rabies and like like was a thing that I knew about. So like that whole thing was terrifying to me, and it really made me like scared and like scared for my dad.
No, rabies is like, you bring that up. As a kid, sometimes you have some irrational fears, and as a kid, I was scared of two things: scoliosis and rabies. Like, I was worried of getting one, if not both of them. And I couldn't, like, and Cujo, like Jaws 3D, I couldn't get past that dead body. Cujo, I would actually watch that one. It was on a lot. It just totally freaked me out. Like, to this day, I see St. Bernards, I don't get scared, but I'm just kind of like, oh man, I hope a bat doesn't bite that dude.
But you go in your head, you always think, "There's Cujo." That's a Cujo
Yeah,
dog.
it's true, and it's funny because Cujo became something of a little cultural phenomenon, I guess, because anytime there's a bad dog, that's the first thing people say. Like, oh,
Yeah,
look at
Cujo.
Cujo.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
No,
that's
Stephen King. I will say this. I'm glad you brought up Stephen King because he actually does really great with animal stuff in his stories. One of my favorite stories, get people to read. So there are movies I think, but Graveyard Shift. Do you remember the story Graveyard
oh
Shift?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, big giant fucking rats. I mean, what's grosser than just like being trapped in a cavern with giant rats?
Oh, the end of 1984. That
Yes, yes.
that I mean, that's what makes it so scary. It's a box on your head with rats.
With rats. No one likes rats.
No, rats are. I mean, they're sinister looking. They're mean. I mean, they're gigantic.
Oh
Like,
yeah, yeah. And in that story in particular, I think there's even like winged, like flying, like not bats, like winged rats. So it sounds horrible.
yeah, that's disgusting and scary. And it's like, the only thing worse than a rat is a possum. Because
Oh, dude, have you ever seen one of those things in person? They're
yeah,
fucking horrifying.
they're super scary. Like, there's one in our apartment complex that
Oh,
wanders around.
is his name like Thaddeus? Oh, there goes Thaddeus. There goes Thaddeus.
It is now. So, we've talked about sharks, the most famous shark ever, and we've talked about dogs, the most infamous dog ever. So, why do you think there are so many horror movies around sharks? I mean, there's Sharknado, there's Jaws, of course. There's all kinds of like mega sharks and
The Meg,
megalodon.
the
Yeah,
Meg.
the Meg, yeah, the shallows.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you can do we can do a whole episode on shark movies if we want to.
Oh yeah.
But what do you think makes those movies so? Because I've never encountered a shark in real life. I saw one on at Port Aransas or Aransas. I always say the name
Hmm.
wrong, but I saw it was a tiny one though, and it was
Yeah.
pretty freaky. I mean, I say tiny. It was like I don't know 4 or 5 feet,
Oh, that's
but
big as shit. That's a big shark.
I
It's
guess for a
big to
shark,
me.
yeah, it is to me too. But I mean, Jaws is like huge.
Yeah. He's like 30 feet or whatever. Yeah. No.
What?
So what makes him so scary? I will tell you. Is because the water is not a place for human beings, and that is an apex predator in the water. And so a monkey thing that is out floating in the water that has no business there, basically just a mindless, soulless killing machine that literally just wants to eat you and will forget about you having existed after it ate you. That's horrifying. There's nothing you can do about it. You're on their turf. Like we're not water. We're not meant for the water, man. And they rule and they kind of control that shit down there.
No, you're right. And then with I mean, there's a lot of predators out there. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, there's
the
plenty.
big cats and stuff like that.
Oh,
But
they're terrible.
they don't look. I mean, I wouldn't mess with one, but they certainly don't look frightening.
No.
Whereas a shark, no matter what, looks frightening. Even the most peaceful shark looks incredibly. Even what's his name, Yabba Yabba or whatever the hell that.
Yeah, dude. It's just a tube with teeth. It's just a teethy tube that just wants to eat you.
And then sharks are the ones that have to keep moving or they'll die, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even that is frightening to me. Like
And they can smell blood like miles away. Like they can come find you from miles away if you're bleeding in the water. No,
yeah,
thank you.
yeah. Sharks are I mean, there's some really silly shark movies, and then there's the classics, but they always have some element of fear to them. Well, I mean, at least they work on me all the time.
Have you ever heard of
Um,
the USS Indianapolis? The thing that they talk about in Jaws? That's a real true life horror story that involves sharks. People look that up. It's horrifying.
oh, I didn't know that was. I know what you're talking about. I didn't know that was a
It is
true.
real. Oh, it is real.
Jaws. I mean, if you're gonna talk shark movies, you have to talk about Jaws. But what do you think of the Sharknado series? I will
Uh,
before it got really silly and became way too self aware. Like the actually only the first one, I thought for what it was fine. It wasn't great. It's not a classic. It's not. I wouldn't run out and recommend it to anybody, but it was fine.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think that kind of created a whole well, and it was like, let's be real. It was like super shark versus mega
Mega
whatever, like
octopus and stupid shit like
yeah,
that.
like that was all the shit before that, and then they turned it into a weather phenomenon, which is kind of interesting. No, I think that's like honestly, I think that's the worst of the worst when it comes to animal horror. It's like it's so lazy. It's like there's no thought behind it. Like it's like, okay, like yes, a tornado of sharks, or like no, like one shark stalking everybody and killing them in a quiet New England town. Now that's scary. Like a fucking like a literally a weather phenomenon that I can be like, oh, I'm gonna drive to where there aren't tornadoes, like and there aren't sharks. Like I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good on that, I guess.